Hello everyone and welcome back to Car Venus 14. Now today we are going to be looking at the story of Genshin Impact. Well, more specifically, what the future of the Genshin Impact story is going to have in store for us. So yeah, basically today is going to be me just trying to predict what might happen in the future of Genshin Impact, because ever since the beginning of Genshin Impact, when I started it, I was like, you know what, this game's really interesting. I might actually play it through to the end. And I only as soon as after the first month of me playing the game, I realized that the game was probably going to finish in another 5 million years. So I decided to speculate on what may happen towards the end. And basically these are my predictions and what might happen. Now, of course, these are just speculations of what may happen in the future. These aren't these aren't like concrete set in stone or anything. So again, take this with a pinch of salt, really. And for those of you guys that have just started Genshin Impact, or are still early in the game in terms of story-wise, do revert your eyes away from this video and come back when you have pretty much gotten up to the point where the rest of us AR50 veterans are at now. So, Anyway, so the beginning of the story, or current events, I don't know why I put that there, but yeah, there we go. The beginning of the story. So, when we came into the world, the Traveler and his sister, or vice versa, depending on the character that you actually picked, if you picked the male twin or the female twin. So the Traveler and his sister, vice versa, came to Teyvat, where they came to Teyvat. They are, I don't know what they actually are, but it said they're not from Teyvat, obviously. Who they really are in real life, I actually have no idea, but it's said to be that they're guardians of the universe. Again, that's just a theory out there. We don't know if it's true, so I didn't actually include it in here because there's not a lot of evidence supporting that. At least I couldn't find a lot of evidence, so I just decided to stay away from it. And when we did our sightseeing in Teyvat, we were about to leave, but we were stopped by the unknown goddess, or the sustainer of heavenly principles. Now, she said the irrigation of mankind ends here, and started throwing massive blocks at us, which she managed to succeed in. So after she did that, during our fight, she actually trapped our sibling, sister or brother, depending on who you picked. She trapped our sibling and sent her to another time zone, apparently. And and when we were fighting her, she sent us to a different time zone as well. So apparently, according to the community, I'm not going to try and dive that deep into the lore of Genshin Impact here, but apparently, according to the Genshin Impact community, we got so the battle that we actually had was 1,000 years before the actual preview, the actual beginning of the game, with the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles. And from at that point, the Sustainer sent our sibling 500 years ahead, whereas she sent us, the main character, 1,000 years ahead. And apparently, remember that scene in the Genshin Impact trailer where Lumine is basically, on a journey. I will link it down in the description below. But yeah, she's basically on that journey, and she sees like a destroyed version of Teyvat in front of her. Apparently, that was actually 500 years after the actual fight, but we didn't see it because we were sent 1,000 years. So from somewhere between 500 years to the 1,000 years after that battle, everything got fixed, except the memory still lives on. Again, I'm not very good at explaining lore, so I'm not going to go into it too much. So I just wanted you guys to give you guys some context. So as to what's going on. So obviously, after all of that, we are then sitting on the beach, in Mondstadt, we basically fish Paimon out of the sea. We literally pick her up with a fishing rod while fishing for food, and we tell Paimon the situation, and we tell her that we're currently looking for our sister, and we're trying to find a way off of this world, basically, and go back to where we came from. So Paimon hears our story and then tells us, or says to us, that she's going to become our travel guide, and obviously that's where our journey begins. Then we head over to Mondstadt, which is the next closest city to where we are currently are, and we tell the local authorities there that we're looking for our sister, but also at the same time there's the whole Dvalen situation. So we basically help Mondstadt. We basically help Mondstadt and solve their problem of, storm terror at that time. Destroying Mondstadt, and we convert him back from Storm Terror to his original Dvalen. Of course, they're not two separate beings, but they have two separate names, and two separate personalities, if you understand what I'm trying to say here. So after that, at this point we already know that Venti's the Anemo Archon, and he tells us to head off to Liyue, where we should meet the Geo Archon because of the Rite of Dissension, I believe. Yeah, sorry, it's all coming back to me. I haven't played the story in a long time. So yeah, the Rite of Dissension, where we should meet a man called Rex Lapis, or Morax as his Archon name is. Of course, when we do reach Liyue and head to the Rite of Dissension, the Rite of Dissension festival, Rex Lapis actually gets killed. He falls out of the heavens, and turns out he actually died. So because of that, we obviously go into another problem where apparently we are seen as the assassinators of Rex Lapis, and we kind of need to clear our name and everything. So our name does get cleared, and we help with the country come to terms with what's going on right now. Also, you do need to realize that at this point, the Adeptus, or the Adepti and the Tianxin, I believe, no, it's not the Tianxin, what is it called? Basically, the government in Liyue and the Adepti are actually having, quarrels as to who should protect Liyue and, why. Basically, they're having like a debate on who's going to take control of Liyue, and who's going to protect the people of Liyue when the time comes to it. And basically, what happens is, if you guys do remember, Child actually does summon the Osile, who is the Overlord of the Vortex. Now, if you guys do remember from Zhongli's story quest, Osile and Morax were actually enemies during the Archon War, which was 2,000 years ago. If you guys do want more detail on the individual stories between Monstadt and Liyue, I have actually made videos of them already, like basically just a summary, saying what actually happened through the whole, in the whole Monstadt and Liyue story arc. So I will link those two videos down in the description if you guys do want to look at these stories in more detail. So after the whole situation in Liyue gets solved, we head off to Inazuma, which is the next region. Now, it's at this point where we are basically stuck. Now, it's at this point where we basically end the main story quest of what it is now, and we're currently waiting for patch 2.0 to drop, so we go to Inazuma. So, pretty much, everything beyond this is all just speculation. So, yeah, again, all of this is pretty much set in stone. We've already done all of this, and the rest of it is basically going to be, my speculations of what's going to be happening. So, the future events, it's basically going to be like Mondstadt and Liyue all over again, really. So we solve the problems of each of the different countries, and then we head on to the next one, respectively. So after solving Inazuma, we head to Sumeru, then Sumeru to Fontaine, Fontaine to Natlan, Natlan to Snezhnaya, and so on and so forth. But then when we get to Snezhnaya, that's where the pattern stops. That's where the pattern breaks. Now, as you all remember, the Fatui, which are from Snezhnaya, are actually on a mission to basically obtain all of the different Archon's Gnosises. Now, that's a bit of a tongue twister, Gnosises. So, if you guys don't know what the Gnosis is, Archons do have visions as well, because a lot of people actually mistake gnosis and visions for actually being the same. Now, that's actually not the case. Now, visions are basically elemental powers that are granted upon people that have actually shown, acts of courage in time of, other people's needs, basically. So the Archons are like, oh, this man is a very good man, I'll give him my power, and yeah, that's how it basically is. Now, a gnosis, Archons also do have visions. If you didn't know, Archons actually do have visions, even when they have their Gnosises. So Archons do have visions, but what the Gnosis actually allows them to do is it doesn't actually hold their power. That's where their vision is stored. That's where the power is stored in their visions. Then what the Gnosis actually does is the Gnosis is actually a connection between the Archons and Celestia. So if you guys didn't know, Celestia is basically how we have heaven in the real world, if you believe in that. And yeah, so heaven in the real world is like Celestia in Genshin Impact. So Celestia is basically heaven, really. That's all you guys need to know. Now, all the Archons obviously do have access to going to Celestia. It's literally the abode or house where the Archons actually live. So, when the Archons do come down to Earth, they actually have to keep a connection to Celestia, because if you didn't know, the way the Archons actually heal is by, going, like, basically teleporting back to Celestia, and, yeah, that's basically, basically they heal by going to Celestia, so, yeah, you can tell Celestia is a pretty important place to them. Now, the Gnosis is basically store the connection between Celestia and the Archons. So basically, now that Venti and Zhongli don't actually have their Gnosises, they cannot actually directly communicate with Celestia. They can still use their powers because of their visions, but they cannot actually go to Celestia. They cannot actually get to Celestia anymore, because that connection has basically been severed from them, obviously, because they don't have their Gnosis anymore. So yeah, that's basically what a Gnosis is. If I am wrong, please do correct me, because I do remember reading this somewhere, but I can't actually recall where from. So if I am wrong, please do correct me. Don't come knocking on my door and start shouting at me, because that's the last thing I want. Anyway, carrying on. So we know that the Tsaritsa is actually taking the Archon's Gnosises, and we still don't actually understand as to why. Now, obviously, there's a load of lore videos out there, actually, speculating as to why she might need, the Gnosises, but of course, this isn't a lore video, and I'm not a very good person at explaining things, because you could probably tell. So, I'm not really going to be going into lore that much on this channel. So, yeah, I'm just going to be touching it. So, at least I don't see my place. I feel as if I don't have the skills to explain lore. That's why I'm just going to stay away from it. So yeah, we head off to Snezhnaya, and when we do get to Snezhnaya, we basically are going to face off against the Tsaritsa. At least ask her why she's taking the Archon's Gnosises, what she actually plans on doing with them, and what does it hold in store for the future of Teyvat, really. What's she going to do with it, basically? Now, of course, you may think that she might be doing this to gain absolute power, and her being the Cryo Archon, like, obviously, ice cold, ice cold, stone cold, heart as solid as ice, stuff like that, basically. So those terms are used in context of evil, so really, again, the Tsaritsa may be using this for an evil purpose, but she may also be using it as a good purpose, but disguised as an evil purpose. We don't really know, because, like I said, all of this is just future events. We don't even know what Inazuma looks like, to be fair. So, yeah, unless you look at leaks and stuff like that. But you catch my drift. So, we head off to Snezhnaya, ask the Tsaritsa, what are you doing? Stop it now. And then, we can basically get an answer to what she's really doing. Then, after that, we head off to Khaenri'ah. And before we do actually get to the far, far future of the game, if you want to know where I'm actually getting all this, information from, is, if you didn't know, before the game was actually released, in August, I believe, there was actually a Teyvat storyline trailer. So it was basically a teaser for the future countries and future basically regions in the game that was going to come out. And if you guys haven't seen it, I will put a link in the description below. But I will warn you that, it does show future aspects of the game. So if you want to stay away from that, don't watch it, obviously. So yeah, and I also will link in the description down below, Lumine's personal trailer. The trailer where she saw the whole Cataclysm event happen in front of her. So yeah, if you guys do want to see that, I will put a link in the description below. Anyway, we are entering the end game now, guys. So basically, everything from this point on is my speculation and my speculation alone. So, obviously not alone, but, going off of information that does make sense with the game's current events. So, pretty much, this is already set in stone. This came from the trailer. Right? The teaser trailer, the storyline trailer that I was talking about. And all of this, as you can clearly see, all of this is my own speculation. At least this is the information that I've actually gathered from the internet and seen, and I've actually thought of what may happen. So yeah, half of this is of my own, so this may well be wrong because I'm not a MiHoYo employee. So yeah, we'll get into it basically. So after we deal with the Tsaritsa, we head off to Khaenri'ah. Why? To fight Dainsleif. Now, if you guys wish to know why we go to fight Dainsleif, it's because in the story preview trailer, he actually said this. Now, I can't remember if this is exactly what he said, or if this is paraphrased or not, but I'll read it out anyway. Command me to move aside. Show me that you are worthier than I to save her. Now, we will get into that right now, actually. So, the her, if you guys are wondering, is probably Lumine, and it's highly likely that it is Lumine. It's not set in stone that it is Lumine, but it's highly likely. The reason being is because in the context of the trailer, it felt as though Dainsleif was actually talking to us, the main character, and so because of that, he may have been referring to Lumine. Obviously, this could be another lady called, I don't know, Princess Peach or something like that. Who knows? But you know what I'm trying to say. So it's highly likely that it is Lumine. Now, here's the thing. Now, pretty much, after Khaenri'ah, we actually don't know what's going to happen. Because, and here's a massive, massive symbolism that MiHoYo did put in the trailer. Now, Khaenri'ah, if you guys did watch the teaser trailer, or you're going to watch it after this, you will find out that Khaenri'ah is actually the name of Khaenri'ah, and the actual chapter act is actually blurred or glitching out in the trailer. So basically, it's being readable, but it's not like being set in stone kind of readable, if you know what I mean. Like, it's sort of glitching, like, it's not sure whether it wants to be there or it wishes, or it doesn't want to be there. So that's what I mean when it's blurred or glitching out. Now, the possible reasons as to why is, well, I've come up with 4 different different reasons here. So, number 1, Khaenri'ah is actually not in Teyvat. So if you guys didn't know, Khaenri'ah and Teyvat are actually 2 separate worlds. They're actually not connected at all. Well, in terms of connection, I mean, they're not in... Khaenri'ah is not in Teyvat, and Teyvat's not in Khaenri'ah. So they're basically 2 separate continents, but they are connected through a portal. At least that's what I think, because if you didn't know, the 3 characters that are from Khaenri'ah, being Dainsleif, Albedo, and Kaya, right? The reason being is because they all have Primogemed shaped eyes, and if you didn't know, they all have the you know what the Primogem shape is, right? You know when you click on the Primogems and you see the shape of it? Yeah. Their eyes, actually, their pupils are actually in the shape of Primogems, and number 2, they are all wearing a piece of, like, somewhere on their body, whether it be their clothes or underneath their clothes, they have the Primogem logo on them. So Kaya has Primogem logos on his gloves. Dainsleif, I believe, has it on his chest piece, if I remember correctly, but he definitely has it on him. And Albedo, if you look at Albedo, if you guys do have Albedo, or just search him up, if you see, basically at the base of his neck, he also has the Primogem logo there. So they're all from Khaenri'ah, pretty much. But how did they get to Teyvat? So there has to be a portal or a gateway that leads from Khaenri'ah to Teyvat or Teyvat to Khaenri'ah, basically a two-way system. So obviously we will be going to Khaenri'ah, but it's not in Teyvat. So that may be one reason as to why it's glitching out, because it's not, you know, in Teyvat. Or basically unable to decipher what may happen using Teyvatian technology, because Teyvatian technology does not, you know, it doesn't mix with Khaenri'ah technology, if you kind of understand what I mean. So Teyvatian stuff and Khaenri'ah stuff don't mix, if those are even terms in the game. So that's what I'm calling it. So basically, Teyvatian technology and, you know, stuff like that can't really reach Khaenri'ah. So that may be why we're, you know, the whole glitching effect. Or we're not far enough into the game. So basically, Khaenri'ah not being into Teyvat means that we can't really use Teyvatian technology into the game. Or what that could mean is that we're not far enough into the game to actually make Khaenri'ah clear, if you understand what I mean. So, yeah. We're still too early in the game, as we all know. We're pretty much, I think we're like 15-20% into the main story, I believe, or something like that. So yeah, we barely touched the surface, really. Another reason is MiHoYo is trying to keep us in the dark, keep us guessing or on edge. So again, maybe MiHoYo don't actually want us to see what's in Khaenri'ah, because something in Khaenri'ah may be really traumatizing, or something that we basically can't handle just yet without knowing the, you know, the previous stuff. That basically all of this, we can't actually know what's going on in Khaenri'ah if we don't know what's going on here. That's why maybe they kept us in the dark to ultimately stop spoilers. But what if it has a deeper meaning, like we're not prepared to actually see it yet? So something like that. Another fact is it may be the point of no return. So the point of no return, like if you guys have played games like Spider-Man, you know, Spider-Man PS4, or, you know, the PS5 remastered, and games like Cyberpunk, if you guys remember, before the final mission actually started, there was a message that came up on the screen and said, warning, if you start this mission, you will not be able to come back until you've seen this mission through to the end. Do you wish to carry on with starting this mission, basically? So what I basically mean is, once we start this mission, we won't be able to come back to Teyvat until we finished what we came to do, basically. So as soon as we enter Khaenri'ah, the gateway will be closed. We won't be able to come back, and that's it. After we start this mission, we've officially entered the end game, basically, and there's no turning back. Like, you know, there's no turning back. You basically should have confirmed everything, like you've done everything, and then carry on with this mission. I know it does sound intimidating at first, but yeah, that's just the way that this game may go, because MiHoYo being MiHoYo, they will definitely make a dark turn in the game sooner or later. So yeah, or the last one, your fate is undecided. So basically, of course, with you know, a game like Genshin Impact, the reason that Khaenri'ah could be glitching out or blurring out is that our fate beyond Khaenri'ah may be, you know, like unseeable. Like, you know how even Mona can't really see some things with her astrologer glass? It may be something like that. Maybe we're still too early in, that we still can't see our fate, or even when we get to patch, I don't know, 10.0, when we are supposed to get Khaenri'ah, our fate will still be undecided. Like, pretty much, after we enter Khaenri'ah, God knows what happens to us. Not even God. No one knows what will happen to us. Whether we end up killed, whether we end up decapitated, whether we end up, I don't know, coming out alive. Like, we don't know what's going to happen once we get to Khaenri'ah. So the whole glitching out, blurring out effect may be that beyond Khaenri'ah, the game, not even MiHoYo, may know. I mean, obviously not even MiHoYo, but I'm trying to build up something here, right? Bear with me. So, not even the game, pretty much, will know what happens as soon as we go into Khaenri'ah. So, that's basically the 4 reasons as to why Khaenri'ah may be blurred out. Now, moving on. Enough with the, heavy stuff. Well, not really enough with the heavy stuff because, we still got more to go. So, after we defeat Dainsleif, if we defeat Dainsleif, we probably will because the game probably wants us to progress that way. But after we defeat Dainsleif, we move on to the Abyss. Now, for those of you guys that don't know what the Abyss is basically the opposite of Celestia. So, Celestia equals heaven, Abyss equals hell. Right? They're both opposing forces, positive and negative, and they can both do devastating damage to each other, and if they do get damaged, it will take some time for them to heal. Exactly like how, the whole fight with Dvalin and Durin, and Venti, Dvalin and Durin had a fight, and Dvalin and Venti both had to go resting for 500 years because they got that badly wounded. So, yeah, anyway, the Abyss, if you guys didn't know, apparently, according to the community, the Abyss and Khaenri'ah are actually quite close to each other. So, yeah, because of the way Khaenri'ah is actually, seen and everything, a lot of people actually think that Khaenri'ah and the Abyss are pretty much next door neighbors. Right? Like, obviously, both worlds don't invade each other. They both give themselves that personal space that they need. But there may be a bridge to get from Khaenri'ah to the Abyss. And the reason why I say that is because, again, Khaenri'ah is blurred out, glitched out in the trailer. We don't know what's going to happen. But another reason we will go to Abyss is because we remember how Lumine is actually the Abyss Order's, like, master, basically, the head of the Abyss Order. We may go to the Abyss to save Lumine and remove the corruption from her. Because if you guys do remember, during the fight, Durin was actually, during the fight between Venti, Dvalin, and Durin was actually created with abyssal power. Now, because of that, there was a lot of corruption in him, right? And also, inevitably, if you didn't know, the Abyss's power actually also seeped into Dvalin and ultimately turned him into Storm Terror and began terrorizing the city of Mondstadt, basically. So, clearly the Abyss's power is actually, strong enough to actually corrupt even the Archons. So, obviously, it may mean that Lumine is corrupted by the Abyss's power, so we have to fight or save Lumine, again, because of what Dainsleif said here, that we will have to save Lumine and remove the corruption from her. Once we do that, we go back to, well, back to wherever we came from. But I think the way this is going to end is after we save Lumine, again, it will be another 2-to-1 showdown that we go to the Abyss. Well, we don't achieve Ascension at that phase, unless we do. We go to the Abyss to finish off the fight we had with the Unknown God / Sustainer of Heavenly Principles. How are we actually going to get to Celestia, though? Well, like I said, I don't know, because at this point, remember, at this point, we've gone through all 7 of the regions, and we will have obtained every single element in the entire game. Dendro, Hydro, Pyro, Cryo, Electro, Geo, Animo, we will have it all. So at this point, we pretty much have all of the elements inside us. We have the power to control all of the elements. Now, obviously, we don't have a Gnosis, so we're not going to be able to get that connection and instantly teleport to Celestia. So again, this is holding exactly like water, basically. It's strong enough to maybe be a valid point, but there's not enough force to actually keep it attached together, if you know what I mean. So yeah, there's not enough, like, physical evidence that we're going to ascend to ascend to Abyss? Sorry, I meant ascend to Celestia. There we go. So, there's not enough evidence that we're actually going to ascend to Celestia. I just think it's going to end this way because it all started in Celestia. We had the fight with the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles in Celestia. So, I think it's going to be quite poetic that we only make a big circle, pretty much go to hell and back, and then ascend to heaven. Like, how cool would that be? Pretty much, at least that's how I think the game is actually trying to set it off to be. Of course, I could be completely wrong, and all this information could be wrong, but like I said at the beginning, this point onwards, pretty much we are taking a stab in the dark here. I actually don't, this is all just my own speculation, so I could be wrong, I could be right, who knows. And then, yeah, as you can clearly see, I am smooth-brained, I cannot think of anything else here. So, yeah, this, again, this is a really, really controversial point. Like, it could be right, it could be wrong, but, you know, it's a stab in the dark. I may as well take it, and at least it's going to be a very, very cool ending if it does go on like that. So, yeah, now, whether this will be the end after we defeat the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles, because she did technically start this. So, once we finish the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles, we go off to our, you know, basically where we came from, and that's the end. But, you know, who knows? We might get DLC, we might return to that. Who knows? miHoYo is just going to keep us guessing at this point. We don't know what's actually going to happen. So, that's a bit too much. Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen at this point. So, yeah, basically that's been the video, guys. What do you guys think? How is Genshin Impact going to end? Do you agree with my points in this video? Do you disagree with my points in this video? Do you think I'm an absolute idiot and don't know what I'm talking about? Please put down in the comment section below what you guys think of my, you know, description of what Genshin Impact is going to be and how it's going to end, and if we're going to get DLC, and if we're going to, I don't know, make flowers for a living. I don't know what I'm even on about now. So, yeah, anyway, guys, that's basically been the video. So, yeah, this has been a very, very, you know, a topic that's not really a lot of people have actually been talking about. And so I just thought I could try and bring this to light. And maybe if there are people out there in YouTube that actually want to know how Genshin Impact might end, they could, you know, obviously take my speculations and the internet speculations and maybe see if they can craft a suitable solution. So, yeah, I have been Carvenus14 and still am. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you all soon. Goodbye.